Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving right into the invisible psychological machinery that drives literally every single purchasing decision you, me, and everyone else makes. We're going to decode the unseen forces that dictate our everyday choices and turn this abstract idea of consumer behavior into clear, actionable knowledge. Let's get started. Picture this for a second. You're standing in a supermarket, just people watching near the checkout. You see three different people walk up. The first person has a basket absolutely stuffed with fresh fruit because, well, they're super focused on their health. The second person is buying this massive bar of chocolate purely to satisfy a sudden craving. And the third person, they're dropping $100 on a bag of premium coffee simply because of the luxury brand name on the label. Now, all three of them are buying products, right? But their reasons for doing so are completely different. What exactly is going on in their heads?
That brings us to Section 1, the mystery of motivation, where we track down this invisible force.
To figure out our supermarket mystery, we really have to look past the physical products sitting in those shopping carts and track down an unseen force, which is motivation. The word itself actually comes from the Latin word movere, which literally means to move. In our world of consumer behavior, motivation is that internal drive that encourages us to purchase products or services just to satisfy our needs and wants. But here's the catch. Motivation is totally invisible. You can't see health concerns or chocolate cravings or the desire for status just floating in the air. Instead, we have to play detective and infer this internal drive by catching it in the act, by observing the final behavior, which is the purchase itself. Without this internal movement, there's absolutely no consumer action.
Let's move to Section 2, Anatomy of a Decision, and look at the chain reaction.
Okay, so how does this invisible force actually work? Well, it happens through what we call the motivation process model. And it always begins with step 1, need recognition. Every single motivated action starts with an unsatisfied physical, social, or psychological need. Now, when you have an unsatisfied need, it creates step 2, tension. It's just a feeling of discomfort. And because we as humans naturally want to reduce that tension, it sparks step 3, a drive. This drive is the actual motivation that pushes you to search for solutions, which leads straight into step 4, goal-directed behavior. You start searching for information, comparing products, and eventually you make a purchase. Finally, if the product actually works, you reach step 5, need satisfaction, and that tension finally decreases. The absolutely crucial point here is this simple 4-step sequence. Need, leading to drive, leading to behavior, leading to satisfaction. This right here is the fundamental engine. It's the exact mechanism that moves a consumer from a state of deficiency to ultimate goal attainment. If you can understand this sequence, you can understand exactly why someone abandons a shopping cart online or why they click Buy Now.
Next up, Section 3, Categorizing the motives, or as I like to call them, the usual suspects.
Because let's be real, not all drives are created equal. So let's categorize the different flavors of motives. First up, we have the contrast between primary and secondary motives. Primary motives are hardwired right into us. They are completely essential for basic human survival. We're talking food, water, shelter, clothing, and safety. You definitely don't have to learn how to be hungry, right? Secondary motives, on the other hand, are developed through our social interactions and life experiences. These vary wildly from person to person and include desires for status, prestige, recognition, and personal achievement. Then, we've got the classic battle between the head and the heart. Rational motives versus emotional motives. Rational motives are completely based on logical, objective thinking. The consumer is carefully analyzing the price, the quality, the durability, and the performance features. But emotional motives, those arise from feelings rather than logic. Here, the consumer is being driven by love, pride, happiness, fear, or excitement. And this exact friction between the two totally dictates how we shop. When we're buying durable goods, we are usually operating under rational motives. It's planned out, it's objective, and it's logical. But when we buy lifestyle products, emotional motives take the wheel. The purchase becomes impulse-driven, subjective, and based entirely on feelings. It's literally the difference between spending hours researching the warranty on a new washing machine and impulsively buying a designer jacket just because it makes you feel incredibly confident.
Now, we also have to acknowledge that some motives are just, well, hiding. Conscious motives are super clear to us. We know exactly why we're buying a certain product. But dormant motives lay completely hidden inside us. They remain totally inactive until the perfect promotional campaign, an ad, or a sudden change in circumstance suddenly wakes them up.
That brings us to Section 4, the Master Framework, which is Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
With all these different motives flying around,
we really turn to Abraham Maslow for a master framework. He suggested that all human needs are arranged in one cohesive hierarchy. To make this easy to keep in mind, here's a powerful little memory trick for you. PSSES. Physiological, safety, social, esteem, and self-actualization. This mnemonic perfectly captures how human needs progress upward, starting from basic ground-level survival all the way up to ultimate personal growth.
Let's build a foundation of this hierarchy from the ground up, shall we? Right at the very bottom are physiological needs: food, water, air. I mean, if you're starving, you certainly aren't thinking about buying a luxury watch. Once those are satisfied, we move up to safety needs, things like personal safety, financial security, and health protection. It's only when we feel safe and fed that we start looking higher up the pyramid.
Now here is where it gets really interesting. Level 3, social needs. Once we're safe and fed, we as human beings desperately seek social acceptance, friendship, family, and belongingness. And this perfectly explains why so many massive brands don't just market the technical features of their products. They market love, family, and social connection. They're speaking directly to this very specific level of the hierarchy.
Moving up, we hit esteem needs. We want respect. We crave recognition and status. Think back to our supermarket mystery at the very beginning of this explainer. Why on earth buy a $100 bag of premium coffee? Simply put, because it satisfies an esteem need. It feeds the ego and grants a level of prestige rather than just simply hydrating you with a dose of caffeine. And finally, we cap off the whole pyramid with self-actualization. This is the absolute highest level in Maslow's hierarchy. It is the deep desire for personal development, creativity, knowledge, and achieving our absolute full potential. Products that are related to education, travel, hobbies, and self-improvement, they live right here at the very peak.
Which leads us to our final section, Section 5, the final verdict, selling solutions, not products.
So, we've mapped out the invisible forces of consumer behavior. But how do successful marketers actually apply this in the real world? Well, there's one absolute golden rule. Successful marketers do not sell products. They sell solutions to consumer needs. Marketing is never, ever just about the physical items sitting in the box. It is entirely about providing a solution to one of those deep-seated human needs we just explored.
Take a fitness tracker, for example. Think about it. When a consumer buys a fitness tracker, they aren't simply looking for a gadget. They're not buying a piece of plastic, a tiny screen, and a few circuits. Fundamentally, what they are actually purchasing is a solution for better health, self-discipline, or personal achievement. Understanding that underlying motivation is what allows a marketer to communicate the true value of what's actually being sold.
To quickly wrap up this investigation, let's just lock in these key concepts, because honestly, differentiating between these terms is the ultimate cheat code to decoding consumer behavior. A need is a state of deficiency. The drive or the motivation is the internal psychological tension created by that need. And the goal is the object or action, the product itself, that finally satisfies the need. We've spent this whole explainer looking closely at the invisible forces that move the world of commerce. But before we go, I want to turn the lens back onto you. Think about the very next thing you plan to buy. Look past the item itself, look past the price tag, and ask yourself, what invisible need is really driving your next purchase? Until next time, keep questioning what moves you.